Just got married and my husband's grandma insulted me right after the ceremony. Now she's pretending it never happened and I'm supposed to play along? I just got married on Saturday, and while the day itself was beautiful and full of love, I can't stop replaying some of the less than stellar moments. We had a very small, intimate backyard wedding, 17 people total. It was exactly what we wanted: relaxed, cozy, heartfelt, and surrounded by the people we actually care about. No big show, no distant cousins or obligatory invites. Just the people who know us, love us, and make us laugh. Neither my husband nor I are close to extended family, and we're totally okay with that. We're more about chosen family, anyway. But my husband does have a semi-decent relationship with his grandparents, so despite their, let's say, challenging personalities, they were invited. Now, for context, I am covered in tattoos and have quite a few facial piercings. My husband doesn't have either. Ironically, his sister does, but somehow she never gets flack for it. His grandparents, especially his grandmother, are very old school. Think ultra-religious, extremely conservative, Fox News on 24/7, Trump flag still in the garage kind of old school. Meanwhile, I'm politically and socially on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, as are most of our guests: LGBTQ, allies, liberals, activists, artists, free-spirited types. Honestly, one of the reasons we opted for a micro-wedding was because we didn't want to put our queer and trans friends in the same room as someone who, without question, would say something offensive or hurtful. This woman is known for having no filter. So we thought, let's just make it family only, keep it small, and minimize the risk of drama. And we almost got away with it. The ceremony went well. We had so many goofy and heartfelt little touches that reflected who we are as a couple. We laughed during our vows, had a few in-jokes that cracked people up, and I, nervously and unintentionally, let a few curse words slip in the middle of my vows. I didn't even notice until later when people mentioned it, but it made everyone laugh. It was genuine, real, imperfect in the best way, except to his grandparents. The first thing Grandma said to me after the ceremony, the literal first words out of her mouth was, "I met your mother. I see where you get your crazy from." It was said with that sickly sweet tone that people use when they want to pretend they're joking but they're not. I was stunned. I think I just blinked at her. It was someone else, my husband's sister, actually, who muttered, "Disrespecting the bride and the mother of the bride within seconds of the ceremony ending is wild." Apparently, Grandma wasn't done there. Over the course of the afternoon, she made several other passive-aggressive remarks. I didn't hear all of them directly, but they made their way back to me pretty quickly because, well, it was a small group and people were rightfully appalled. She didn't like the music. It was too loud and weird. Didn't like the food. Do they even serve this at weddings? And definitely didn't like my tattoos. Or, apparently, the fact that I wrote my own vows. Or wore boots instead of heels. Or that my mom wore a pantsuit. It felt like every little thing we did to make our day ours somehow personally offended her. I want to be clear, no one else had an issue. Everyone else loved the vibe. It was joyful, full of personality, a little chaotic, and totally us. People told us over and over that it was one of the most fun weddings they'd been to. But all I could think about that night, when the house was quiet and the guests had gone, was how this one woman, the one guest I knew would be a problem, still managed to get under my skin. I keep telling myself it was just a few comments. That it's over now. That she doesn't define the day. But she left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm trying to remind myself of all the love and laughter, of how happy my husband looked when I walked down the makeshift aisle, how my niece handed me wildflowers she picked from the yard, how our first dance turned into a group dance with our siblings and parents joining in halfway through. I don't regret the wedding. Not even a little. But I do regret that we felt the need to extend a hand to people who've made it clear, over and over again, that they only tolerate me because I married their grandson. I've bent over backwards to be respectful, to be polite, to bite my tongue. And she couldn't even give me one day without being mean. It's frustrating. Because I know if I had clapped back at her, I would have been the disrespectful one. But somehow her comments, layered in judgment and condescension, are just passed off as, "Oh, that's just Grandma. She says what she thinks." Yeah, and what she thinks is mean, unkind, judgmental. I haven't said anything to her yet. I probably won't. But I needed to write this all out because I'm tired of letting rude people hide behind age or religion or being old school. I'm tired of people being allowed to ruin moments with no accountability because that's just how they are. So where I left off, right, the wedding. The glorious, weird, beautiful, chaotic, love-soaked day where I married my best friend, surrounded by people who got us, who see us, who celebrated us not in spite of who we are, but because of it. Except, of course, the grandparents. Look, I'm not naive. I knew there'd be a clash. My husband's grandparents have made their stance on, well, everything pretty clear over the years. They're the kind of people who forward chain emails, rant about the state of the world, and think their brand of old-fashioned values should apply to everyone, everywhere, always. They're the kind of people who use the word liberal like it's an insult and flinch when someone says they slash them, like it's an incantation from a demonic spellbook. And me? I'm literally every bumper sticker on a Prius they hate rolled into one heavily tattooed, pierced, space-loving, science-worshipping, D&D-playing woman who married their grandson. So yeah, I knew it would be awkward. I just thought maybe, just maybe, they'd have the decency to keep the clause retracted for a few hours. But nope. They came in already judging, and I could feel it from the moment she looked me up and down. It wasn't even subtle. The fake smile, backhanded compliment, snide tone kind of energy. I swear, she was waiting for a single hair out of place to pounce on. And the comment about my mom? That still stings. That wasn't a joke. That was a message. Loud and clear. I don't like you. I don't respect you. And I'm going to say what I want, because I know you won't say anything back. What she didn't count on, though, was that I would say something. Not directly to her, no. But I made a point to own the mic, own the moment, and be unapologetically me. Our officiant was perfect. He spoke about our beliefs, the cosmos, parallel universes, science, the infinite weirdness and beauty of existence. We quoted Carl Sagan. We leaned into the whole Interstellar meets Carl Jung vibe. I mean, it was deeply us. And sure, they probably hated every second of it. I could practically hear her pearl clutching when he quoted, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." But I didn't care. Then came the speeches. My husband, sweetly and sincerely, thanked everyone and said, "We may not believe in divine intervention, but it sure felt like magic how this day came together." It had rained all week, and that Saturday, the sky opened up with sun and warmth and wind in all the right ways. It was magical. And then I grabbed the mic and said, without hesitation, "Yeah, we believe in science." It was a dig. I won't pretend it wasn't. Grandpa scoffed loud enough to be heard across the lawn, and I caught the flash of tight-lipped rage on Grandma's face, but I was over it by then. I'm not going to pretend I didn't know what I was doing. It was petty, maybe, but it also felt like taking my space back. After everything she said, directly and indirectly, I wasn't going to let her pretend this wedding was hers to endure.
No, ma'am.
You're a guest. You get what we give. And we gave laughter and weirdness and truth and spacey metaphors and cussing in our vows and boot-stomping joy and dogs in flower crowns. If that's not your thing,
Cool.
but keep your opinions in your purse and your mouth closed. Now it's post-wedding and things are weird. My husband's conflicted. He wants us to get along. He knows how difficult she is. He knows she doesn't approve of me, has never approved of me, but there's this part of him that holds on to the idea that maybe we can find common ground. Maybe they'll come around. Maybe I'll soften. But I've told him, if it wasn't already clear before, it's crystal now. This woman and I don't like each other. That is mutual, and that is okay. He gets it. Mostly. But he's also her grandson. And she's not going anywhere just because we wish she would. They're still in town until tomorrow, and they invited Justin to dinner last night. I wasn't included. I wasn't even mentioned. Not that I wanted to go. Not even close. And, thankfully, my husband didn't push it. He didn't ask, didn't try to coax me into attending. It was like we both silently agreed this wasn't worth pretending over. Plus, I already had plans. I had Dungeons and Dragons with my crew, and, honestly, that was exactly what I needed. No judgment, no side eyes, no snide remarks. Just a bunch of nerds saving a tavern from exploding toads. But still, I couldn't help but wonder what was said at that dinner. Were they concerned? Did they tell him I'm dragging him down, leading him astray, whatever that means in conservative Christian code? Did they frame it as, we're just worried about your future? Did they say he can do better? Because I can feel that conversation looming. And I know him. I know he won't tell me everything that was said. He'll want to protect my feelings. He'll tell me it wasn't that bad. Maybe it won't be. But I know something was said. I can feel it in my gut. I told him, and I'll keep telling him, this is who I am. I am exactly the kind of woman that old-school religious conservative Trump supporters loathe. And I'm fine with that. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not trying to be. I'm my husband's, and that's what matters. I'm the brew with kick, a little bitter, but with warmth and fire and roots that go deep. I understand why he wants peace. Why he wants connection between the people he loves. But some bridges aren't meant to be built. Some personalities simply don't mesh, and that doesn't make anyone evil. It just makes them incompatible. You don't ask fire to get along with gasoline. So, plot twist. I was sitting at my desk, still in the middle of our online D&D session, headphones on, half laughing about something ridiculous like our barbarian trying to seduce a cursed mirror or whatever, when I heard the car pull up. They were back from dinner. Didn't really think much of it. I figured my husband would come inside, decompress, maybe drop a vague, yeah, it was fine, and we'd both just silently be glad that we weren't dealing with the aftershocks. But nope. He pokes his head into the room and goes, "Hey babe, can you come outside for a sec? They want to say goodbye." And I froze. Like what? I had my little dragon dice in one hand and my cursor hovering over a spell slot in the other, and suddenly I'm about to walk out into a boss-level social encounter I did not prep for. I pulled off my headset, mumbled something to the group about needing 5 minutes IRL, and stepped outside. And then, bam, out of nowhere, the biggest, most unexpected grandparent bear hug of my life. And they were smiling and saying nice things. It was almost disorienting. Like when you wake up from a dream where you were fighting someone, and now they're hugging you and offering you cookies. Grandma grabs my hands, looks me right in the eyes, and says, "It was so amazing. Beautiful ceremony. You looked stunning." I was already a little stunned. But then she hits me with the kicker. "I hope you know I wasn't offended by any of the swearing," she says, with this genuine warmth. "And I hope I didn't come across that way. I loved your ceremony. Your vows were beautiful." I blinked. Like, what? Then she immediately follows it with, "I should have said wacky about your mom, not crazy." Heck, I'm crazy. I didn't mean it in a bad way. Your mom is a character. Same with your father. I see where you get your sparkle from.
Y'all. Sparkle.
That woman, who 2 days ago was looking at me like I was a walking hot topic protest sign, said I have sparkle. And honestly, I didn't know what to do with that. I was just standing there smiling and nodding like someone buffering in real time. It was a lot. But in a weird way, it was nice. And the hug she gave me after that was, I don't know.
Warm. Real.
Like maybe the smallest crack in the concrete had finally let some sun through. I came back inside and immediately turned to my husband like, "What
the
fuck?" Because I know something happened. That dinner wasn't just a casual goodbye send-off. That was a come-to-Jesus meeting. Irony very much intended. And he just smirked a little and shrugged, all nonchalant, but I could tell by the way he said it that it was not a chill conversation. He said, he laid it down pretty fucking clearly. Told them what they did at the wedding was out of line. That if they wanted any kind of relationship with him moving forward, they could not disrespect me, or us, or our beliefs ever again. That this was a partnership, a team, and if they couldn't respect that, they didn't get access to either of us. And I'm just there like, yes. Yes, king. Put it in the vows part 2. But yeah, I'm also 90% sure his mom, my cool, witchy, liberal MIL who once did ayahuasca with a shaman in Costa Rica, also tore into them a bit. Probably in that gentle, soul-crushing way hippies have where they say something profound and quietly devastating that makes you reevaluate your entire personality while hugging a crystal. I love her. So now I'm left in this weird post-wedding glow/hangover where everything is peaceful and confusing. Like, did Grandma just actually apologize? Did I just gain an ounce of respect for a woman who thought Dr. Fauci was an agent of Satan last Christmas? I don't know what comes next. I'm not going to pretend we're suddenly besties or she's going to show up at Pride in a rainbow MAGA hat trying to do better. But I do know this. Something shifted. Just a little. Maybe it was the wedding. Maybe it was the dinner. Maybe it was my husband finally putting his foot down in a way that demanded they see me not as an aesthetic or a stereotype, but as his person. His partner.
His wife.
Whatever it was, I'll take it. Because if Grandma thinks I sparkle, well, she ain't seen nothing yet. I'll be honest. What stung more than anything this week wasn't even Grandma's passive-aggressive little jabs or Grandpa's audible scoffs. It was seeing how many people online, strangers, commenters, decided to throw my husband under the bus like he was some kind of villain for going to dinner with his grandparents on a random Monday night after our wedding. Like, come on. Y'all are doing the absolute most. We had a small, humble, chaotic, beautiful, backyard wedding that we planned and pulled off ourselves. It was perfect because it was small, because it was family only, because it was quick and deeply intentional. And yeah, it was also exhausting. So the idea that my husband ducking out for one dinner after work was somehow him abandoning his new bride, like we're in some kind of period drama? Please. He wasn't leaving me alone in the drawing room to go smoke cigars with the Earl of emotional betrayal. He was going to dinner with his grandparents to handle a situation he knew needed handling.
And he did.
One of the reasons I married this man is because he doesn't cause scenes, especially on big days. Especially when tensions are high and emotions are already flooding the place. If he'd said something to Grandma at the wedding, she would have absolutely made a huge deal out of it. That woman could start a fight in an empty room. I knew it. He knew it. That's why we kept it cool in the moment. I trusted him to address it when the time was right, and he did. Behind closed doors, clearly, and in a way that was actually heard. And yes, I did call her a bitch. To his face. In a moment where I was hurt and raw and full of all the big, ugly feelings that weddings dredge up when there are difficult family dynamics in the mix. It wasn't my proudest moment. And you know what? He didn't yell. He didn't walk away. He just got it. He saw me. He knew I wasn't attacking him. I was lashing out at someone who had made one of the biggest days of my life feel tainted by judgment. He gave me grace when I couldn't quite give it to myself. That's the kind of man he is. The truth is, he wasn't just sad because his grandma made a weird comment. He was grieving. It took our wedding, this intimate, deeply personal ceremony, for him to really see who his grandparents were. Because before all this, their bigotry was something he could compartmentalize. It wasn't loud. It wasn't in his face. They kept it vague, subtle, until a certain orange man in a red hat made it acceptable to shout your prejudices instead of whispering them. It's been a slow and painful reckoning for him. And that sadness wasn't about me, not really. It was about the realization that people he loved had beliefs and values that just didn't align with who he is anymore. That hurts. And I hate that people read the first post and painted him as some complicit enabler just because he didn't storm off in protest or make a dramatic toast announcing his family mid-reception. That's not who he is. That's not who we are. And just so we're crystal clear, we didn't build our entire guest list around protecting Grandma's feelings. That wasn't even close to the whole picture. We didn't invite any friends, LGBTQ or not. The only non-blood relative there was my best friend, who also happened to be our officiant. And yeah, one of the reasons we didn't do a big thing was because I wasn't about to put my beautiful, beloved queer friends in a space with people who might very well look them in the eye and say something disgusting. But that wasn't the only reason. It wasn't even the main reason. My dad's health is declining. We wanted him there. We didn't want to wait. We wanted something small, simple, and sacred. Something we could look back on without the exhaustion of guest lists and seating charts and DJ drama. There are other personal reasons I don't feel like putting on blast for strangers to dissect and debate. But please, don't assume our choices were all about appeasing the problematic elders. We did this for us.
So yeah.
This week's been a lot. I got married. I got criticized for letting my husband go to dinner. I got hugged by a woman I didn't think could hug me sincerely. I got called sparkly by someone who probably thinks drag queens are a government plot. And I'm still processing all of it. But if there's one thing I'm sure of, it's this. My husband has my back. He always has. He stood by me when I cried. He stood up for me when I couldn't be in the room. He's still standing beside me, even as we both navigate what it means to love each other while learning hard truths about the people who raised us. And he's not sad anymore. He gets it now. He sees it clearly. And he knows an apology doesn't mean I owe anyone a relationship. It means we keep our boundaries intact, we move forward with caution, and we protect what matters, us.